Hiya guys, and welcome back to Aid's Workshop. So Clock Tales Part 3. Yeah, I haven't been in the shed much, and I've just been sort of tinkering with this clock really. I'd like to get back on a main project, but I'm just playing with this in the meantime till I get going on the next job. So with that said, this is about how to wind a clock mainspring, a barrel type clock mainspring, back into its barrel, or how to change a mainspring without the use of a clock spring winding machine or having to make a machine. Now, I've seen lots of YouTube videos of people making machines or fixtures, fittings, that sort of thing to be able to do the job, and it's basically holding between two centres and being able to wind. Well, a lathe pretty much does that, so I haven't seen it done this way, so I'm doing it my way because I've got the tools around me to be able to do it. I've got the lathe, I can make the bits and pieces to turn up, which I've shown in previous videos, to be able to do the job. So this is about that, how to do it. If you've got a lathe, you don't need to make a special machine. So hopefully this is going to help other people beginning if they've got a lathe. If they haven't got a lathe, then look at the other videos and you can make all sorts of contraptions out of wood and what have you to do the job. So enjoy guys. So you saw me do the bushes for the barrels, and I've now done all three, and I've done two of the bushes in the barrel lids, and this is the last one. This is a larger barrel. So there's a bronze bush in here already. It's got a head width about 2 mil, 2.5 mil, at 8 mil diameter. That's the large part of the bush, the shouldered part. Then it's got a 7 mil diameter by 0.2, well that's what I made it, thicker than the cover plate. And then a bore up the middle, 6 mil to suit the barrel arbor. So all I'm doing here, I'm not going to bore it out because I'm not holding this particularly true. It is flat, so it's orientated correct as far as wobble, but not necessarily concentric. So I am just turning the head off, for want of a better, right to the point where I am just there, touching the plate. Okay, so this is riveted in. So now that I've removed the head, I should be able to push it out through the hole. So it is I believe 7 mil diameter, so around a 1/4 inch pusher should push it out. So all I need is, 6 mil won't push it out, 7 mil would push it out. I wonder, what have I got here? That's a 6 mil reamer. What I need is something around 7 mil just to give it a little push and pop that bush out the middle. Let's see what I can find. Probably the end of a 7 mil reamer. Let's have a look. Yeah, that'll do it. So I've got a 7 mil reamer here. I know this isn't the ideal tool, and it's probably not the best thing to do with reamers, but if I just give it a little push now, pop, and there we are. I think that bush, it just sprung a little bit on the metal cover, but that bush is now out, and I have not touched the diameter within the head cap, so that's good news. So now I need to make a new bearing. So let's put that 7 mil reamer away so I don't mix it up with the 6 mil. Okay, so a bit of 10 mil brass. Let's get everything out the way here. Okay, just clean those jaws off. So I'm sticking out, I don't know, 20 mil, 25 mil. 20 mil should be enough. A little bit less than that, there we go. Okay, square my tool post up. So from the last one I made, it's still got what is in fact a 5.8 mil hole up it. So let's take this back, get rid of that hole because we don't know if it's throwing or not now that it's gone back in the 3 jaw. I'm just going to set a 0 there. Okay, let's just go on the top here. So I want this main diameter to be 8mm. There's a touch. Let's go there. Use speed. Caliper sizes here. The only critical one here really is that it's a nice, I won't say press fit, but I need to be able to push it into the hole in the plate. So, where are we? 9.05. Let's have a crack at that. So I'm looking for 8mm. It's going to be the OD. Gone back way further than I needed to. Let's see where we are now. We should be getting close. 8.6. A couple more cuts, I think, and then a finish. .45. Let's have a look at that. Should be about it, I think. And 8.12. That should do it. Let's say it's not critical. Within a power 2 of 8mm, it's in fresh air. But if I can land on 8, I got a good reading on my dial to go down to the 7mm. So basically, if I can land sort of dead nuts on 8mm, I know 1mm on my dial, and that is 8.02. Okay, so I'll set my dial to 0 here. So pretty much 1mm to come off that diameter. So we need to know how thick this plate is and making sure it's not thicker than the others. And that plate is 1mm. Okay, 0.97. Right, so when I did the others, it was a 1mm plate, and what I did was have a shoulder 1.5mm, because we need a bit sticking through to peen over. So I already set the 0 on the front face, so I need to go in 1.5. 1.5, that's it. Turn that speed off. So this should be 0.25 up. Here's damn it. I'm expecting to see 7.25 here. What if I could get the calipers on it right? 7.23. Okay. I'm going to go there, and then we'll try it in the hole. Okay, so that should be just a tad over 7mm. Not quite. Let me just take a little deburr on both sides. So when I just put the Noga around that hole, both sides. You know that. Oh, it's all bother shouting. You know what I'm going to do? It's just half a division. An inconceivable amount of material coming off there. Just, I could hardly see anything at all, but I bet that will now go on. It will with a push, which is what I was wanting. Right, so we're at that point. So now what I want is, I'm not going to ream it out, I'm going to put a 5.8mm hole through it. So where is my centre drill? It is. I'm not going to ream the bush until after it's fitted in the plate, because I'm going to be hitting it, and I'll probably distort the hole. So smack bang in the middle, centre drill. Overall width of this is 3.5mm. Okay, that's the centre drill in. We'll go straight in with a 5mm drill. So the OD7, the ID is going to be 6. Only a 0.5mm wall thickness will be left here. And the head will have a 1mm wall thickness. How far are we in there? Warming up in about 8mm. Right, that's 5. Let's hit it with 5.5. Should have been prepared. I wasn't. Ooh. Let's just slow that down when we get started. That's 5.5, and then we'll hit it with 5.8, which is the last drill. Okay, so that's now got an undersized hole in the bore. Right, with that said, let's put that drill away before I lose it. Back in the index, and we want to now part this off. So, and it needs to be 3.5mm. So if I just line up on the end of the part with my parting tool and a razor blade, set a 0, come back 3.5, lock the bed, and we'll machine that off. And we want a little piece of rod to catch it on so we don't lose it. There we go. Let's part this off. So okay, there she is. And there, you see it? there's a little bush. So I'm going to turn it round now, put it back in the chuck, which is easier said than done. Let's get rid of that parting tool, we don't want that in the way. We will have the piece of brass out. We will clean the jaws. And we'll get a little bush back on the little rod. Bring him in somewhere near. What are you doing, eh? That's back to front. We don't want to face the 7mm off, we want to face the where I just parted it. Okay, that's somewhere near. Just the lightest of grips in that chuck. It's not, you know, literally I tightened that chuck key with 2 fingers. And that's running good. Let's just tidy this space up. Left a little pip. That's touching. Touch more. Okay. Right, we'll have a little chamfer on the outside because that's in fresh air. Oh, 45 degrees. How close am I to the chuck? I'm okay. There's a chamfer on the outside. Now, I'm just going to take the centre drill and I'm going to break the edge on the inside. I'll slow it down so we don't get shatter. Good. Just that's it. Little chamfer on the inside edge. Okay, so that is now ready to fit to the plate. So that is the next job. So I've just tapped the bush in with the head on the side that we machined the head off from. Okay, so we're the right way round. Okay, so this peened out area is on the outside of the barrel. So I've made up this little punch with a taper. This is the end bit that does the work. I think just a few little taps, and I've done the other two with great success. I put the punch in and a few good sharp wallops and getting little slithers of brass from the tool. Okay. That is now well and truly riveted in there and isn't going to come out unless I faced off one of the other sides, so one of the 2 sides. Okay, so with that said, we now need to ream it out. So where did we get to? Right, it goes on there, and right on the end of that arbor it's a little bit tight, but when it pushes on a bit, it's actually on there back to front. Let's put it the right way. Okay, so it'll spin on there. Ooh, it'll spin on there freely, and it's got a little bit of rock. Now, when I did it just with a reamer, I couldn't get it on. I've had to fettle it a little bit. Basically, a little stick with a bit of wet and dry on the bore, and just ran that back and through a few times until I got it to fit. And I've also polished these, the shafts on the arbors, both ends, to take the wear marks. There were sort of grey areas where it had been running, but literally worn out wet and dry, high speed, couple of quick tickles till the surface cleaned up, that's it. You know, no reduction in size as such. But yeah, happy now. That's not wobbling about ridiculously. There's a little bit of play, which is what we want. Happy days. So
mainsprings is the next thing. I've ordered 2 mainsprings for the other 2 barrels, which you've seen before. And then this one, I was struggling to get the right size. So somebody mentioned in the last video, you can repair those springs. Yeah, of course I can. And I'm going to. Why this old tail was left on there, I do not know. That's going to be taken away. Cut back to a little radius in here. That hole has been drilled. It's probably oversized, but it needs to be a bit more elongated. Normally it'd be a bit smaller than that with an elongation so that it'll slip over the head and then slide one way and lock. But yeah, it'll work anyway. So the inside of the spring, the key on the inside is actually fine. I'm looking at the hole and there's no issues with the hole on the center of the spring. So I'm probably going to unravel it a bit to put a bit more set into it, because it's been, it's been sat, squeezed up for however many years, and it wants, a bit of set putting back into it just to give it a bit of tension. So I could do that, and then we'll reuse this spring. It's not involved in the clock at all. This is the hour striker spring. So yeah, we'll do that and refit it. Okay, so I'm working round the tripod here. So basically clock key, square collet with a square mandrel of the shaft in there, so I can rotate that. Okay, in tailstock end, let me just get that somewhere square, is a metal bar with a hollow in the end, which is picking up on the end of the pivot, and my capture ring is here. Cable tie holding the hole onto the back end of this lathe tool, which is angled away to stop it slipping off. So I will have to keep the spring straight as I go, and you can see the spring coming down in diameter. Obviously now I've got so far, it's not so bad. Right, I've got too much tail hanging out, so I'm just going to wind in a bit to adjust the length of the holder, as it were. I'm turning the chuck. Right, are we anywhere near? We're not far away. Okay, I'm working around the tripod here, so it's not ideal. The things we have to do for filming. I don't really want to put my arm over there either in case something happened. So, nearly. Keep going, Aid. Let's wind that in a bit more. Don't want too much tail hanging out. What's that falling over in the back of the shed? Been quite windy here the last couple of days. There we go, we're on. Right. Okay. So I'll put that in, but not beyond the bottom of the spring. And I'll just let that unwind. There we are. Now it's lifting here. We're in. So I can remove the tailstock. Whoop. Didn't want to remove it that far. It nearly fell off the end of the lathe then. Hold on. Let me rescue my tailstock. Oh dear me. Okay. Just wind it back. Under the collet here. And there's the spring captivated in the holder. So now we need to fit it back to the barrel. That's the next step. So I've got to take this arbor back out of the centre, but that's easy. We know how to do that. Just rotate it backwards. So, brand new spring. It came within the wire, as we saw. I put the spring inside the sock, cut the wire, and then holding it in my hand, gradually released it till it was, the power was gone out of it. So there's the new spring, not lubricated. Obviously, I've got to get that spring inside the barrel, which has a new bearing, and I got to get the cap on, which has a new bearing, and obviously the barrel arbor has got to go in the middle. So, done a little bit of tweaking, modified the end of the spring slightly to have that like dog leg on it. You can see that dog leg there. It did just have the bend over on the end, but I've just put that sort of outward sweep. I found when putting the other two on that helped. So with that in mind, if I show you the spring, that's a brand new spring, and there's the spring that was removed. So you can see there's a big difference in you know, how the spring shapes when it's released. So this was brand new one, so I'm glad I put a brand new one in. This is the actual clock spring as opposed to for the chime works and that sort of thing. Right, okay. So I'm going to lubricate this, bit of 3-in-1 oil and a bit of blue roll. Got some blue roll on the back here. Just give it a smearing all over first of all. Then we'll go to the lathe and I'll show you my technique. So yeah, lathe switched off, emergency stop button's pushed, so I will have the chuck key left in the chuck, because the amount of people that says, oh, I'm going to injure myself one of these days. I've been operating a lathe for more than 40 years, probably 44, something like that. I've never started the lathe up with a chuck key in the chuck, although I do on occasion leave it in there. But my shop, my rules, happy days. So yeah, that's just relying to a comment that came up. Somebody was quite rude actually. Started the sentence with sunshine. So yeah, you know, if you want to engage in intelligent conversation with me, I'm quite happy to you know, stand my ground. But when you started off with a condescending insult, you can go away. So if you don't like the way I do things and what I do, then please watch somebody else and you know, be an armchair critic to them. Right, okay, that's got that little rant out the way. Yeah, smear of oil, we'll go to the lathe. I will be lubricating again afterwards, and we'll also put a smear of oil in that barrel as well, but it will be literally a, you know, just a light lube. Anyway, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go along, but you know, you got to go with it, you got to learn. So I got the spring or the barrel arbor in the chuck, in the 3-jaw chuck. Okay. I've put a cable tie in the end of the spring in the hook hole, so that's step one, and the spring's just sat there. So I'm just going to put my, not going to do any drive with this, it's purely for support. So my retaining ring over the top of that, what is a tap wrench, and just nip the tailstock. So that's just helping hold the end of the shaft. So I've rotated the spring on that arbor so it's picked up on the inner hook. So I'm just going to hold it with my finger first of all. I'm not going to put any gloves on yet. I'll wait till I get something down in here. I mean, there's no, you know, there's no great power in here. That's just, okay, all right. So in my tailstock, in my tool post, I've just hooked the back end of a tool hanging out. So I'll bring you around to show you that. So go in handheld. So cable tie through the loop in the end of the spring and hooked round there, and you can see it's canted round towards camera, so it's not going to slip off the end. It's only going to pull into the corner under pressure, so it's not going to go whizzing off on me. So the next thing I do is going to revolve the chuck. Hang on, right, okay, lathe is off, and I push the e-stop. So I'm going to revolve the chuck anti-clockwise, and that will in turn wind up the spring. So I'll put you back held. So I have oiled the spring as I mentioned earlier on. I got a pair of gloves on now, but having done the last two, quite confident that I'm not going to have any problems. So I'm just holding the spring to stop it sort of canting off on itself. Let me just get the cable tie central to the spring, move the carriage forward a touch, and you can see now, I'll stop in a moment, there's enough drag in the spindle of the lathe to hold it at that point. So you can see the spring. Let me just bring you in a little bit. Let's have a look. Yeah, you can see the spring is starting to go now. So I have got a chuck key here, and I can obviously sort of do it this way, but stop the spring cocking over. Let's just keep going until I'm going to need this chuck key. I doubt I will, but let's get it to that point. So I'm just holding on to things here. Right, I think I need to come closer in with my hold point, because I'm quite a way out. Let's just, I'm winding in, so you can see I'm winding in to get a bit closer. In fact, let's just, you can see by how easily I tightened up that cable tie that there's not a great deal of force in there at the moment, but it is increasing. And the gloves are just in case, shall we say. So you can see I'm reducing in size all the time. Check my little ring, doesn't fit yet. A few more. Okay, will that go now? We're getting close. I'm not getting to the point where the spring is binding. It needs to reduce a couple more mil in diameter. Maybe, let's try that. Does that go on? Not quite. That's almost at the point where it's the size it was when it was tied earlier. And that's maybe another half turn. Okay, so now, as I mentioned, the lathe's not switched on. I'm going to lock it off with the chuck key in over here, so it's locked, it's not turned anyway. I'll bring him in and show you where we are with it. So there it is, tied in, and the ring is around the spring. Now what I must do is rotate this ring this way, and I'm going to rotate it as far as I can so that it's in line with maybe maybe the start of the keyhole. So I might have to wind it up a little bit more. I don't want too much spring hanging out, but I want enough hanging out to be able to hook onto. So I'm going to do that and then release the pressure. So I've just taken the chuck key back out of the back, and I'm going to rotate that round and start releasing the pressure. Okay, so I'll bring you back round this side and show you at the point where it's sat when I've released it. Okay, so my cutout in my holder is in line with that key and the cable ties there. So most of the pressure's off now. I'll just keep undoing. And it'll get to a point where there's no pressure on it anymore. I think we're about there. So yeah, I can now take that out of there. So I think pressure's completely released now. I'm just going to take my support out of the way, and I think what I'll just do is take it out the chuck. Let's just take the pressure off that cable tie, take it out the chuck, unhook it, and there is the spring captured in that holder. So I can do away with the cable tie now, so I'll snip that off, and then we'll look at getting it into the barrel. So I've just lubricated the inside of the barrel. Bit of oil. I've left the arbor in there because that's the way it goes. Right, so what I want to do now is the slit in my aluminium ring here at the top lines up with the barb on the outside of the barrel, so I know where it is. So that's like an obvious visual. So the tang is stuck out at the moment, so if I just push it down and line up, so I'm lining up the slit in this barrel with just beyond the tang. So if I push down on the outer tag, it should get to the point where it pops in. Right, now I need to rotate it anti-clockwise within the barrel, and that's hooked. That's hooked on there now. Happy days, that's what we wanted. Right, so now we have to, what's theoretically, wind it up. So back on with my, ooh, don't push that too far. Let's just get that on. Okay. Back on with that. Let's just captivate it. Okay. Make sure that nothing's slipping. Okay. So I'm going to put a pin in there and get it past the ball. Right, okay. And that can now rest on the sticky out bit of tool. I'll bring you around, show you that as well, I think. Okay, so sub-assemblies there with the spring retained, not in the barrel but in this ring that that it's in. This is driving the barrel arbor, which is located at the front here and at the back because it's in the bearing. Right, T-bar through there, stopping it coming off or rotating, and tailstock in the back end, nearly said in the four-letter A word then, in the back end of the tap wrench. So I'll put you back on in the tripod, so to speak, and then I'll wind it up, and we're going to pull this ring out when we're done. Now hopefully everything stays attached as far as the hooks are concerned. If it doesn't, then it's start again time, but I'm confident. Okay, it's not going to come winging out on me this time because it's retained. It's always going to be in that barrel, whether it slips round or not. So I am going to now, forget which way, yes, anti-clock, wind up the spring. Oh, and I heard something move. Can I get my collar out yet? No, not quite. A little bit more. There we are, my collar. You saw me pull it out. Now I'll gently, and I'm just going to keep that retained in there, just in case. I want to keep it as far back as I can get it. Okay. Keep the spring back in. Okay, it's releasing into the barrel now. I normally get the back face, so that'll be easy to it'll be easy to put the lid on. So as I unwind, there we are. Did you see? Once that lifts off the stop, all the tension's gone. So that is that. So take it all apart. Take the barrel out the 3-jaw, take my little holding ring off, and there it is. That's back in the barrel. So oil has squeezed out the grooves here. I can see oil just around the surface of the spring where it's now coiled up, and I wiped it earlier. There is still oil sort of squeezed out between the revolutions of the spring. So I'm going to leave that amount of oil. I think that's fine. So I just need to push the spring down in. Okay, that's right down in there. So I should be able to get the lid on really simply now. So I did put a bit of oil in that hole, only a touch of oil in that hole when I did it. I need a little bit of oil on this arbor now, and in the bearing, and then I'll pop the cap on. That's really simple. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm happy with the amount of oil that's in there. I can see oil squeezing out the outside of the spring. There was a little bit of oil in the bore, but only a fingerful. And I've just oiled that pivot, arbor, whatever we want to call it, and a touch of oil in there. So I can pop the cap on, and what I'm going to do is line up. You can see the little slot in the cap, and I'm going to line that up. You see it with the barb. I don't know if that's strictly necessary, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to push that in, and it's popped in probably 2/3 of the way round, and it's still hanging out a bit here. So what I'm going to do, because this isn't the first one I've done, I'm going to put it in my vise, which I know is pretty square and parallel. I'm just going to give it a little squeeze. I felt it go. A little bit there, I think. I felt it go. And a bit around there. So I'm just, there's like a little lip or a rebate, or I don't know what to call it really, that holds it or keeps it in. It's a little swage line on the outside, and you've just got to get it below that. Okay, so let's get that somewhere near a bit more closed. That is all bar the shouting in. Well, it's flush to surface, but it's below surface here, slightly above here. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a little piece of copper, and let's have a small hammer. Yes, little tiny. And just make sure that that cap is home. And if anything, there's a touch there. Okay, so feeling it now. Oh, still maybe a tiny bit there. Nope. Right, that's it. If I look around the outside edge, I can see the brass barrel sticking up an equal amount all the way around. Okay, so that's that reassembled. I suppose what I could do now is just do a quick wind test. So I need to turn clockwise. and that is winding up. Okay, there we are. That's the third barrel resprung. Is that a word for it? Yeah, I suppose it is. That's the refurb on the third barrel done. New bearings. I did polish the journals on the barrel arbors. New bearings both sides where they were really sloppy. And new springs, and relubed and cleaned and ready to put back in the clock. So those are going to go back in a little plastic pot with all the fastenings that hold this one down, which have all been through the ultrasonic. It's labelled up centre, this one, so it's the one for the movement. That's all labelled up, so when I come to reassemble the clock, I've got everything all in one place for that particular spring barrel. And I've sort of kept to that method throughout. Little sub-assemblies all kept together in bags and labelled up, because I'm no expert, I'm not that familiar with doing these. Although I've got the video to show me what I've done, it's always handy to, you know, have at least the collective nuts, bolts, screws, washers all kept as a set. So, right, at least we managed to get that filmed all in one go, no dramas, no mishaps. And I didn't need a spring winding machine, I used a lathe. A lathe and a couple of little bits and bobs turned up. This one did the centre spring and the one spring, and then it was a larger version of these which did the other spring, which was a larger spring or a larger barrel. So not a great deal to do, and I didn't have to make a spring winding machine because my lathe made one for me.
Well, there we are. We got the 3 springs in their respective barrels. Job's done. And those parts are ready to go back into the clock when I come to the reassembly. I'm getting very close now to splitting the main plates and taking all the wheels and gears and what have you out of it. In fact, I think I'm going to be doing that this afternoon, but I'm going to photograph each stage of what I do. I won't show the disassembly on video. I probably will show the reassembly in various modules and the rebushing. I will show those in a future video, but as far as how I strip it down, I think I need to be concentrating more on knowing how it goes back together than sharing it being taken apart. I think the reassembly is more interesting than taking it apart anyway. So with that said, thanks for watching, guys, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you all next time. May not be very soon, but it'll be the next time. Cheers, guys.